Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. We're getting to the end of the month here, and I'm hearing that the spring market is picking up for many of you. And I think that what is the best time, perfect time to now talk about what do you do when you are now swimming in transactions after it being slow from the last quarter of 2022 into the first quarter of 2023? I've been slow, I've been waiting around, and now finally my phone is ringing. I have leads in my pipeline, I have transactions going, and now I'm up to my earballs in business. So what do I do to make sure that I am staying on top of all the business that I'm receiving right now and can continue to move in that direction for the duration of the year and end it strongly? So we thought that it might be a great time to discuss how to manage your transactions. This is a question that we actually get a lot from newer agents, but I'm also seeing that as more veteran agents, sometimes we start off really strong with how we're handling our transactions and how we're communicating with our clients. But the busier we get and the more successful we get, it's very tempting to let those activities fall by the wayside, right? We're very tempted to fly by the seat of our pants. So today will just be a friendly reminder of the why it's important to manage your transactions well, but also we'll end the session today with just a couple of ideas, and for those veteran agents, some reminders of how to manage your transactions well. So we originally titled this workshop transaction management. But as I started digging in a little bit and just kind of reflecting on my own experiences with trying to build a transaction management process that I liked, I enjoyed, but also that I started to get feedback on from clients like, wow, that was really awesome, or I really appreciate you taking the time to make this transaction go smoothly. Over the years, getting that kind of feedback has helped me to refine what we were doing. And just so you know, feedback is not always positive, and we'll talk about that later, but the point is to consistently endeavor to improve your business, always reaching for, how can I do better? How can I be better? There's always going to be areas of improvement, especially in this business, because things change so quickly. So we're going to jump in today and just start chatting about specifically what does it mean to manage a process in real estate? What does that look like? And I'll talk in a bit here about why I changed the title of this workshop to managing the process and not just transaction management. So give me one moment. I'm going to share my screen here. There we go. So as I said, instead of transaction management being the topic for today, the topic is going to be managing the process. Aldo Gucci said, quality is remembered long after price is forgotten. And I thought that this would be a great quote to start with today because of that very first word that's in the quote, which is quality. Okay. It is no secret that right now, not only is it a little bit slower for those of us in the real estate industry, but inventory continues to be tight for us here in the Midwest, especially in Michigan. Even though things are picking up right now for a lot of us, it is still difficult or proving to be difficult to get buyers specifically under contract. So we are still experiencing some tightness in the market, and it's also still oversaturated by real estate professionals. We don't have enough buyers for the homes that are available to purchase. And we also have a ton of licensed individuals that are attempting to make a living in this profession. And so when it's highly competitive, not only on the transaction side of things, but also just professionally, asking yourself, why should someone choose you? Out of all the people that they know or may know, coworkers know, family knows, out of all the people that they may have some connection with that knows a realtor, why would they call you? Why would they pick up the phone? And so I come back to this word quality. Okay. I just got back from an ethics training at my association, and it's just so heavy on my mind right now that it's so easy to not do it right. It's so easy to forget things. It's so easy to let things fall through the cracks. And when you start focusing on quality, that becomes easier because at the forefront of your mind is not what I'm doing, but how well am I doing this? How well am I running my business? If the meat and cheese and bread and wine of your business is clients and transactions, you probably should be making sure that you're doing it well, right? That you're doing a great job. So quality is remembered long after price is forgotten. People will remember the quality of your business long after that transaction has closed, says Aldo Gucci, and also Marissa Harrington. All right, so let's break down what transaction management is, just so that we're all on the same page. So according to preclose.com, transaction management is focused on managing the small day-to-day nuts and bolts of a real estate transaction. So think about back office compliance, making sure that everyone is getting paid, you're getting paid, making sure everything is signed. It's very, very basic. Like if you're managing a transaction, you're making sure that the day-to-day of that transaction is happening. So this is making sure your contracts are signed, making sure that if you're representing a buyer, well, either side, making sure the inspections have been scheduled, appraisal has been scheduled, the lender and the title company have been reached out to. So there are a lot of very small, tedious tasks that are related to our business. And I'm sure that many of you have had this conversation with potential clients, current clients, the public, where people say, okay, so you're a realtor, what do you do? Why should someone hire a real estate professional and not try and do it themselves? And so because we have intimate knowledge of what it takes to run a business, we can say, I reach out to the title company for you. I reach out to the lender for you. I make sure if I'm on the listing side, I'm making sure that buyers are pre-approved. If they're submitting an offer, I'm making sure that your inspections are scheduled. It's a lot that we do. If you have not, I would encourage you to create a checklist for potential clients where you can just kind of lay out. I've seen different versions of this. We have one, a really cool version of this that I've seen someone do is basically like a day in the life. So a day in the life of a real estate transaction. And you just kind of just go, it could be I think ours is like 2 or 3 pages. It can be a 2 or 3 page list. These are all the things that need to happen when there is a transaction. Right? And so many people don't know that and don't understand that. They think we're sitting back as realtors and we're just collecting these checks and, drinking wine and going to day brunches and, we're just hanging out and collecting a whole bunch of money, and we're not really working for the money. We're not working for our commission. So being able to spell out all of these small day-to-day tedious tasks that are a part of a real estate transaction, that is very, very important, not only for you to know, but also for your clients or your potential clients to know. So that is transaction management. So when you think of transaction management, normally when we're having conversations with agents and we're talking about transaction management, how to improve, what do you think transaction management is? Many times these certain themes arise. So transaction management can help with communication, keeping everyone on the same page, clients, lenders, inspectors, et cetera, organization and efficiency of the transaction, of the paperwork, timing. So transaction management has a lot to do with making sure that the transaction is proceeding as scheduled, as it pertains to the purchase agreement, right? Transaction management is a good CYA, right? So if you are, the more organized you are, and the more you have everything together, the more difficult it is for you to get in trouble and for you to miss things and for you to drop the ball, right? Transaction management can help set expectations for not only your clients, but also yourself. So it can help to serve as a tool to keep your clients on the same page with you as the transaction is progressing. And obviously transaction management can help improve the quality of service. Now I'm going to put a mental asterisk here on quality of service. And the reason why I'm doing that is because, you know, I'm not sure if you have ever encountered or been a part of a real estate transaction where, you know, it felt like things were moving along, the parts were working, things were doing what it was supposed to do. It probably felt a little bumpy. But you know, it is something that we joke about in the real estate industry, right? Like it's very common for a real estate transaction to be stressful and chaotic and all the things, just because there's so many moving parts to it, right? So, you know, normally when people think of a transaction, a real estate transaction, they're expecting, I don't want to say they're expecting the worst, but yeah, they're expecting the worst, right? And so I'm going to put an asterisk here on quality of service, because this is something that I'm adding to the list to help us prepare for this conversation. This is not something that normally comes up as top of mind for agents when we're talking to them about managing their transactions. And I know that sounds, I know that doesn't sound believable, but it's true. You know, the rest of this stuff, you know, we hear, yep, managing my transaction can help with communication and keeping everybody on the same page, all of those things. But I very rarely hear people connect quality of service to transaction management. So we're going to talk about that today, because the reason why I changed the title of our workshop to managing the process is because we want to go as real estate leaders. We want to go a step further than just, okay, communicate, keep everybody on the same page, be organized, make sure your timing is right, set expectations. We want to go a step further. We want to wow people, right? So this is going to start our conversation. Whoops, let me go back. It's going to start our conversation about there's a little bit of a difference between transaction management and something else that we'll get to in a second. So what I want you to do is I want you to ask yourself, think about, let's just make it easy. Think about your last transaction. Okay, can you picture it? Can you picture those clients? Can you picture that house? All right, so I want you to think about that last transaction that you just closed. How'd it go? And this is just, you know, you don't have to tell anybody, but just kind of take a scan, an internal scan, a mental scan, be introspective for a sec. How did that transaction go? And so the three things that I have listed here are the common, I don't want to call them mistakes, but the common pitfalls that can happen when you are doing a transaction, right? So the first one is transaction lag. So agents get stuck in the transaction management weeds, and prospecting just went right out the window. Okay, because we have to remember that we are not just focused on one transaction at a time and getting from start to finish to closing and then starting over from the very beginning, right? Our bread and butter is making sure that not only are we in the process of transactions, but we're working on our business at the same time. So many agents get stuck in the transaction management weeds, making sure that thing gets to closing, and they forget to prospect. Their prospecting goes out the window, right? Or did you have deadline management? So, or challenges with deadline management. So important deadlines were missed, or you scrambled at the last minute to get it all done. Right? So you're just taking an internal mental scan of how your last transaction went, just the most recent one. Did you have deadline management? Did you forget some important deadlines? And then lastly, client engagement. When it was all said and done, your clients didn't seem happy, and you may have missed out on a referral. So again, you're just taking an internal scan of how did your last transaction go? Did you experience some transaction lag? Did you experience some deadline management? Did you experience some missed opportunities with client engagement because things just didn't seem in control? So this is going to lead us to the major theme of our conversation today, which is maybe we can shift our thinking from transaction management to transaction coordination. And the reason why I thought that that would be important to chat about today is because I think we should always try to push ourselves to think outside of the box of what has been commonly known and accepted in our industry. Okay, so if we have been taught, have been trained, or have observed that, yeah, Marissa, I know it's important to stay on top of my deadlines. I know it's important to stay on top of my paperwork. I would like to challenge that. You can do all those things and the client may still not have, they'll have a fine experience. It'll be fine. But I would challenge that they're not having a great experience. Part of our job, because, you know, we're working on commission only, y'all. So part of our job is not only to get people to the closing table, it is also to make sure that they are so happy and so wowed that they sing our praises from the top of the hilltops, from top of the mountains, and that leads to more business, right? So just doing the job, I just want to encourage us to think outside of the box. Just doing the job is not enough, right? You could be telling yourself, there's some of you listening to me right now that are like, you know, I do a good job with my transactions. I don't know why I never get referrals, or I get very few referrals. A large part of my business is not referrals, you know, and I think I do a good job. I don't drop the ball. I communicate. I do all the things, right? And I think it's because we're missing that piece of wow service, right? So let's shift our thought possibly from just managing that transaction. So when I think transaction management, I think I'm just trying to make sure that it doesn't fall apart. Whatever I can do to make sure that this doesn't fall apart, right? And so that kind of sort of, to me, gives a impression or connotation of you're trying to keep up with the transaction rather than managing it and being in control of it, right? So if you're coordinating the transaction, I get the sense that that coordination piece speaks to you have an eagle's eye view of the entire thing. You know what everyone is doing, what is happening at every point of the process. You have an eagle eyes view. And also from down below, everyone is looking up to you, right? To make sure that things are flowing. So it's shifting our thinking from, let me just get this thing to the closing table, to let me make sure that everything is flowing and I have a handle on it all from an eagle's eye view, and I'm providing wow service because I can see everything that's going on. I can anticipate things. I can be ahead of things, right? So let's maybe, for the moment, let's try and shift our thinking from just managing the transaction and just trying to keep up with it to coordinating. So transaction coordination, according to preclose.com, is creating a positive experience for the customer. So does transaction coordination include transaction management? Absolutely. It absolutely does. Now, I'm not saying that you're not managing your transaction if you're focused on coordinating. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is take it a step further. Take it a step further than just making sure that that deal gets to the closing table. Take it a step further and go, how can I, at every opportunity that I have in this process, create a positive experience for the customer? So now, if we're shifting our thinking to transaction coordination and a positive experience, well, now it's very easy to talk about value, right? It's very easy to talk about our perceived relationship of price and quality. And the perceived relationship of price and quality, that's not coming from you, from your perspective. That is coming from the perspective of your client. Because a while back, I can't remember which live stream it was that we did, 1 or 2 live streams ago, we talked about you don't treat people the way they want to be treated. I mean, the way you want to be treated, you treat people the way they want to be treated. So I'll say that again because I messed it up the first time. You don't treat people the way you want to be treated. You treat your clients the way they want to be treated. They want to feel value. They want to see value. And that is based on their perceived relationship of price and quality. Okay, so no, they're not buying you, right? But they're paying you, they're compensating you. And this is a great topic for those of you that have a hard time or seem to keep coming up against these conversations when you're specifically in a listing consultation, where you have to speak to that seller about your commission. And you're fighting for your life in that appointment, trying to convince that seller that you are worth every dime of that X percentage, right? And they have so many objections and all these things, right? So it's about their perception of your value. And I'm going to, just a little example, it's kind of an example and also like a tip, right? So on that specific topic of talking about, as a listing agent, talking about your commission in that initial appointment, if you can prepare a listing presentation or pre-list packet or both that addresses who you are and what you do before you ever open your mouth, I guarantee you those conversations will go more smoothly, or they won't even happen at all. You won't get questioned at all because like the tip that I gave earlier, you had a 2 to 5 page checklist of what it is that you actually do, right? So this is where we talk about perceived relationship of price and quality, and a very simple thing that you can do as a part of your transaction coordination, as a part of your process, to communicate ahead of time. This is what I do. This is how I earn the money. This is why you need me, right? So value, value, value. Transaction coordination is about value. How are you providing value to your client? It's very similar to, when we tell folks, look, I'm a realtor. I'm not just here to open doors for you. I'm not a door opener, because we know that that's a thing. We know that people think that we're only here. If you've ever dealt with a Zillow lead, right? You know that people think, because they don't know, they don't understand our value. They don't understand what we do, because maybe you haven't told them yet, right? But we know that people think that we're door openers. So if you can communicate your value ahead of time, if we can shift that client or potential client's perception from, I don't understand why real estate agents make so much money. They don't even do anything. And, I have this $600,000 house that you want to list, and you think you should get that much money for just putting a sign in my yard. It's because they don't understand. And you haven't communicated your value. Okay. So value, value, value. We want to leave an impression. And the reason why I put positively in parentheses is because you can leave an impression. It can be negative or positive, but you're always leaving an impression on people that come into contact with you. So we would like for the impression that we leave on folks to be positive. We want their experience with us to be positive, or we want them to be wowed. Okay. So again, we're shifting our thinking from, we are just managing this. I'm just trying to get this thing to a closing table, right? I'm just trying to get that check. We're shifting our thinking from that to, at every step of this process, how can I make sure that people are impressed by me in a positive way? That is from the first phone call to the first in-person appointment. What are you doing in between appointments? Are they getting anything from you? Any type of follow-up, any notes, a packet? Like, at every step of your process, both your buyer and your seller process, what are you doing? What are you doing? Have you assessed that? Do you even know? Do you have a set process that you do, and system that you do over and over and over and over and over again every single time? If you don't, I'm going to strongly encourage you to create it. 5-Star has a wonderful checklist, that buyer closing checklist and seller closing checklist. They're also available online, but utilize the resources and tools. You don't have to create these things from scratch, y'all. You don't have to, right? So identify what your system and your process actually is, and then sit down and go, okay, at this point in the process, how can I wow my client? At this point in the process, how can I wow my client, right? Do that for every single bit. And I guarantee you that people will be wowed, and you will leave a positive impression, okay? Because you are coordinating the transaction. You're creating an experience for them. Shifting your thinking from being transaction management focused to transaction coordination focused means that you're shifting your business to be customer centric. I think it's really easy for us to think that we are being customer centric, right? And I guess a good step for you is to define, when you take a look at your business, define what it is that you do that's customer centric. And then ask yourself, are other agents doing this? Okay. Because if the answer is yes, I believe most reasonably intelligent, caring agents are doing these things. Then I say this with love and respectfully, that's not very special. That's not special. That's not wow. If you feel like other agents are other reasonably professional, caring people are doing these things, if you think they're doing these things, then I would encourage you to maybe step your game up. Step your game up. Because remember, we're talking about how do you set yourself apart? How do you set yourself apart? And what parts of your business, or let me phrase it this way, are there any parts of your business that are not customer centric? Are there any parts of your process, your transaction process, that are inconvenient, confusing? Do you have continuous questions about the same thing every transaction? This just happened to me the other day. I was at a closing and I was like, I made a mental note about something. And I was like, this is the second or third closing that I've had someone ask this question, which means I need to take a step back and look at my process. Because remember, we are supposed to be continuously refining and improving. If you feel like you've hit it and you found your sweet spot, keep digging. Keep digging, keep digging, keep digging, because I guarantee you, you're going to find something else where you're like, that's probably not the best that it could be, right? This part of my process or my system is not as customer centric as it could be, right? So dissect your business and dissect your processes and ask yourself, is it customer centric? Because if you are shifting your thinking from just managing your transactions to coordinating your transactions, coordination equals customer centric. How am I making this easy for my client? How am I making this seamless for my client? How am I providing value to my client? How am I wowing my client? Okay, we just have to shift our thinking. So the main goals of coordination versus transaction management is you want to stand out. We've already said that. It actually saves you time on the front end. Yes, it's some work. And the reason why I say that is because, like I just said, you're going to have to take a look at your whole entire process and make sure that you have you are doing what you want to do at every step of your process, providing value. Right? So that's a lot of front load work, but I guarantee you that it's going to save you time in the long run. The work that you do at the front end means that your transactions are as seamless as they can be. We know that this is real estate and we know things happen, but I'm going to tell you from personal experience, when you center the client and you make sure that you're trying to go over and above with every part of your process of that transaction, even though things come up and challenging situations happen, it is so much easier to have those difficult conversations with your client because you haven't been continuously disappointing and confusing them. So if they're already coming up from a state, because you haven't done your due diligence, so if they're already coming from a space of being confused and frustrated, and then a normal real estate hiccup happens, and then you have to have that conversation, right? You're setting yourself up to fail at this point. So do the work at the beginning, front load all of that, so that you're saving yourself time and energy, and sometimes heartache at the end, right? Or during the transaction. And those of you that utilize either some sort of a transaction management system or utilize a transaction coordinator, everyone will tell you that it helps you make more money. The more efficient you are, the more money you make. Because guess what? You're not spending all your time and energy and days chasing your tail. trying to figure, did I get this signature? Oh yeah, I forgot to go do this. Oh, what's going on with it? Right? That actually wastes a lot of time, friends. That wastes so much time. And you don't even realize that you're doing it, right? But you look up and it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon and you're like, man, what did I actually do today? So having some sort of transaction coordination structure or system, or utilizing someone that you've outsourced to be a transaction coordinator will allow you to make more money because you're not spending your time in the weeds, right? You are getting people under contract, letting the system do what it does, right? And then you're going and you're getting more business and you're getting more people under contract. So if you're ever trying to figure out how people can handle so many transactions at one time, I guarantee you they have a system and or a transaction coordinator. Okay, so, oops, sorry. So the goals of coordination are make yourself stand out from the crowd, save yourself time in the long run on transactions, and then open it up for you to make more money so that you can serve more people. So just some fun stats. 92% of buyers trust referrals from people. 92%. I'm gonna let that sink in for like half a second. And this was from 2012. I am pretty sure that this number has not dropped, if it has increased. 92% of buyers trust referrals from people they know, which means if you did not provide the best experience, you are not going to be in that 92%. Okay, you're not going to be top of mind because they don't want to refer your poor transaction management to somebody they know. It's going to make them look bad. Right? So think about that. 92% of buyers trust referrals from people they know. 47% of the top performers ask for referrals consistently versus only 26% of non-top performers. And the reason why that stat is important is because many realtors that I know have some sort of way to ask for or solicit referrals from people that they know and also their current or past clients. So if 47% of people that do very, very, very well in our industry, almost half of the top performers in our industry ask for referrals consistently. Do you know why? Because most of the time they have the courage to ask for referrals because they have mastered transaction coordination and they knew that they did a good job. So they have the courage and the audacity to ask because they know they did a good job. Okay. And then the last stat is almost 65% of an agent's time is spent on non-revenue generating activities. Y'all, if you don't take anything away from this live stream today, I really hope this 65% number continues to flash across your brain. Almost 65% of an agent's time is spent on non-revenue generating activities. It means that 65% of your time is spent with you chasing your tail because you are not organized and you do not have a transaction coordination system. And that is intentional and intuitive for clients. You are spending 65% of your time tracking down that signature, chasing down the lender that you probably should have talked to 2 days ago, and on and on and on and on. 65%. So if you are looking to take your business to the next level, if you keep capping out, not capping out, but if you keep topping out at 20 transactions or sides a year, and you want to increase your volume and your production, I'm going to strongly encourage you to dissect how you're spending your time when you are on transactions. Because most agents are spending the majority of their time just trying to keep up. And now you don't have space to work on your business. So if you did not get a chance to check out the prospecting live stream or look at the presentation from that, take some time to, because what we do is not just our transactions. That's not all that we do. That's not all that makes up our business and our business activities on a daily basis. Most of the time that you should be spending, it should be on your business, not in it. Okay. If you're spending 65% of your time in your business, when do you have time to prospect? When do you have time to connect with people and be in flow? When do you have time to be present? Right? So just think about that. So as we're, slowly wrapping up here, I didn't want to just talk to you guys about, okay, so this is a good thing to do. Shift your focus from managing your transaction to coordinating it. Take that eagle eye view. Okay, Marissa, but what does that look like? What does that look like? And these are just a few tips. This is not everything. I could have filled, 3-4 slides with all the things. And if you have any additional questions or need any additional advice and tips, please feel free to reach out to me or any of your other broker support or education folks to just kind of talk through, like, all right, I want to coordinate my transactions. What are some really great things that I can do to make sure that I'm creating a wow, customer-centric, eagle's eye view of my transactions? So here are just a few tips. Really simple and free, by the way, free, this first one. A lot of them are free, actually. Share your calendars. So if you haven't already, create a separate business email. So don't merge your personal email with your business email. Have a separate business email. I use Google just because Google, like I said, is free and has so many other tools that you can use besides the mail and the calendar. But utilize Gmail and create a business email for yourself. And then through Google Calendar, now that you have that email set up, through Google Calendar, you can share all of the events of the transaction with your client. So let's start at the beginning. Let's say that you're scheduling an appointment with that client, right? Or a consultation, I should say. You're on the phone with them, you get their contact information, which should have included their email address. So now, after you get off the phone, you go into Google Calendar and you create an event for follow-up, or you could create an event for initial consultation, and you add them to that with reminders and a nice note. They're going to be like, oh my gosh, like this person is so professional and organized. I already feel well taken care of just from doing that simple thing that costs you no money. Okay, so their home inspection can go on that calendar. If you want to review, if you have a seller, you want to review offers with your seller. I will tell you right now that on the listing side of things, utilizing Google Calendar has been a lifesaver, especially when you're juggling multiple listings. We created a listing calendar. So when is the sign going up? When are the photos? When is the lockbox being placed? When is the open house? When are you going live? you can put all of that in Google Calendar under you can name your calendars in Google and just call it like a listing timeline calendar or something like that, and share it with your clients or your team. Okay. Utilize a timeline tool. So if you want to take it a step further, if you haven't heard of Gmail Folio, it's an extension that you can add to your Gmail account that is designed specifically for real estate transactions. There is a free version of this. Just a heads up that free version kind of caps out on, like, if you're a high producing agent and you have a ton of transactions at any given time, I would encourage you to just go ahead and invest in the monthly plan of it, because it does cap you out at a certain number of transactions. Okay. But Gmail Folio not only will organize all of your emails in your Gmail that pertain to this specific address and this specific transaction, but it will also let you create a timeline that is shared between yourself and your clients. And you can add anyone to it. You can add your team to it, your partner agent, the other agent if you wanted to. You can add you can literally add anybody to this timeline. And so on the back end of the timeline, it's in your Gmail Folio where you're making edits. On the front end, or the front facing part of the timeline, what your client or whoever you shared it with is seeing is like a very professional looking, this is what's happening today in 1234 Main Street, and it has your headshot on it and your logo. I mean, it's awesome. So if you haven't already explored Gmail Folio to utilize that timeline tool for your transactions, I would strongly encourage you to look into that. Have a group or centralized chat going. So between, the buyer, the lender, yourself, or your clients and your transaction coordinator, or your clients, whoever, right? You could use one of these. I just gave a few examples, some apps of places where you can centralize communication, but maybe using one of these tools to say, hey, download this app. It'll, this is how we're going to communicate through the process, and, everything is going to be there. And that way too, we were talking about CYA earlier. If all of your transaction conversations, Gmail helps with this too, right? If you can find all of your transaction conversations, emails, all that kind of stuff in one place quickly, wow, like, it's so easy to go back and track, right? And find things. Establish one place. This is kind of along the same theme. Establish one place where your transactions are held. So this is a transaction management system or a project management software to where all of your, let's say you have, 5 transactions going at one time, you have them all in one place, right? And you can see visually where you are for each step for every transaction. I'm going to speak specifically to Trello, because Trello is what my team was using for years before we decided to get, I broke down and I actually got a CRM finally, right? And the CRM we chose, I was very intentional because I wanted a CRM that had transaction management features for this reason. But anyway, so Trello is a really great tool to use. Honestly, as I'm talking right now, we may need to do a live stream or workshop just on Trello for real estate agents because it's a whole thing. In the very beginning of my business, I watched hours of YouTube videos. So just so you know, if you all want to learn more about how to use the Trello project management software for your real estate business, there are tons of videos on YouTube to help you do that. And they get very detailed on how to set them up. But using Trello, you were able to, that buyer closing checklist and seller closing checklist that I talked about earlier that have been provided to us by our brokerage, you can create tasks in Trello that follow that specifically. so that you are never missing a beat. You can set reminders for yourself in Trello. It's just, you can put pictures of the house in Trello. You can upload your inspections and other documents and addendums into Trello. I mean, literally, you can have everything in one spot. It's awesome. So that's just my little Trello plug. Set reminders for yourself. Set reminders. It sounds kind of obvious, but you know, sometimes we're moving too fast and we forget to remind ourselves to, you know, hey, so that home inspection is Tuesday at 5, right? And then we forget to set an alarm for ourselves to remember to be at that home inspection. So set reminders for yourself. And this set reminders piece kind of goes hand in hand with the shared calendars piece and the maybe the project management software. Like those things allow you to set reminders. So don't only set reminders for yourself though, or your team, also set reminders for your clients. Because remember, we're talking about coordinating the transaction, which means everybody is on the same page. What you know, your clients know. Okay. Write yourself notes. If you need to, you know, remember some, my client is not going to be present at the home inspection, so I need to make sure that I'm there at X time to do the walkthrough, blah, blah, right? So write yourself notes so that you can stay on top of this. Because remember, what we're trying to do on the level that we're trying to get you to is that if you had 50 transactions going, I know this is, you know, a lot, but just to prove my point, if you have 50 transactions going at a time, your system should be so pristine that you can handle that, right? So if you are in a position right now where you haven't done a ton of production, but you want to whom much is given, much is required. So why don't right now, if you have 1 or 2 transactions going right now, start this work now. That's what's going to allow you to scale to more business. So don't wait until you get busy to set the system and the good practices. Do it now, okay? Obviously, check in frequently with your clients and your lenders. So we just talked about setting reminders for yourself. Okay, one of my favorite lenders in Kalamazoo, he does Tuesday. Those of you that are listening from KZoo, you know who I'm talking about. He does Tuesday updates. He time blocks his whole entire day to call every single person that he's on a transaction with. That includes both sides. So it doesn't matter who has the buyer and who he's working with. He calls the other agent with updates, and he also calls his client. So 3 sides of the transaction every single Tuesday. He checks in frequently, okay? And that's not the only time you talk to him. So make sure that you are setting up in your system intentionally to check in with everybody, okay? And I've already said this, but have a process. Have a process. How can you provide wow service and truly coordinate a transaction if you don't have a process? We already talked about that, so I'm gonna move on to the next one. Oh shoot, I put utilize a timeline tool twice, but it's worth saying it again because it's important. And then now, friends, this is something that I find, I don't know if it's because we're afraid of the feedback that we're gonna get, or you know, there was like a little hiccup in the process and you just kind of want to like let that deal close and put it out of your mind and walk away. It is important and vital to your business to follow up with your people after closing and solicit not only referrals. Don't be that agent that never asks for feedback, but you ask for referrals. Do both. Do both. Okay. Follow up after closing and get that feedback. And then don't stop at getting the feedback. Actually implement it. Actually implement it. You should always be striving to do better and be better, always. And who best to tell you where you need to improve than the folks who were just in a transaction with you? Do not be afraid for feedback. You are not perfect. None of us are. None of us are perfect. We all fall short. But what will set you apart is you not being afraid, you being unafraid to reach out after the closing to chat with your clients and talk about their experience, and make sure that there's nothing that you could have done better. Okay, so those are just a few of my tips and tricks on how to we talked about how to provide wow service, how to be customer centric, how to, instead of managing your transactions, to coordinate your transactions. But I didn't want to leave you today without giving you some tangible, this is how you do it. And like I said, that's not everything, but those are the basics. Those are the basics. If you just do everything on that list, if you just do all those things, I'm telling you right now, you will have happy, 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 happy clients who will sing your praises from the mountaintops. I guarantee it. So I hope that that was helpful to you all today. I want to see you all continue to thrive and to be leaders in the real estate industry, and to take your service one step further and one step ahead of everyone else. Always endeavor to stand out from the pack. Okay. All right. I hope that you all have enjoy the rest of your Thursday, enjoy the rest of your week into the weekend. For those of you that are on spring break right now and preparing for vacation, or on vacation, if you're watching this, enjoy your time, rest, release, and happy selling real estate, everybody. Bye.